everything from this project, we are Sorinex and we have to tell that story. But the
Mhm.
connecting point for me is the coaches. And the reason that somewhat that high school model coach stuck out to me as one, it's a place that we're growing. It's a market that we're growing in. You know, the NIL stuff has changed the college, the AAU stuff, the youth league ball has changed the high school spectrum. You know, some of these academies, IMG type. So
Mhm.
that segment is growing. But what I find in those places, the big schools, yeah, it's going to look like a college model, but some school has a guy that's been there 20 years, has raised his kids through that school system, has
Yeah.
worked as a strength coach in that school system. He knows Patty at the deli. He knows Mark over at the cafe. So when I go to these places, my goal to get this there is not just to tell the Sorinex story, which is about the coach, but these
Mhm.
small towns, Patty helped pay for that weight room in some way, shape, or form, or her kids
Right.
lifted on it. So I want to go a little bit more. I was an Anthony Bourdain fan, and I want to go a little bit of that route of like, let me understand, not just you guys use Sorinex, that's great. Let me understand who you are. You tell me your favorite bar and tell me which beer to drink, and I'm going to drink it with you.
That's
Tell me which,
right.
tell me a little breakfast spot to go to. But that way we can show love to not only the coaches that they're not going to be on ESPN. They're not going to be on CBS News talking about whatever, but they're going to be there with those kids developing young men and young women into better young men and young women. So that's kind of my angle to it. And I got to build the trust with it to get it there. So every time I'm taking out things that are highly valuable to those moments, but
Mhm.
we're not to that point yet. But I think as
Yeah.
it goes, we'll get there. And if not, I
Yeah.
think I've also pitched the idea of like, well, let me just do a little behind the scenes episode myself. You guys run the Sornex piece, and then I can do everything else. So either way, we're going to get there. It's just figuring out the rhythm and flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
I think that's fun because it is like it's a passion project. It's something
Mhm.
fun that you like. It's learning. I mean, it's a lot like this. You know,
Yeah.
we're just kind of
Yeah,
figuring out what's the flow. You know,
Exactly.
what's the right guest. You know, who are we, wanting to get on, and that's the fun thing because I don't think there is a right answer or a wrong answer, but you'll find, okay, I like the way that felt. I like the way
yeah.
that looked, and then you're in a special place.
Well, man, you're touching on my job, and it's funny, and this is just how I laugh about it. But people ask me what my job is with Sornex, and I've had so many iterations. And literally, when I got the job, it was coming off of my injury and working with Sorinex somewhat in that capacity as athlete, sponsor, athlete. They'd help me get places to speak. I was like, man, if I can be a janitor, I just need consistency. I can't go out here and get paid to perform. Let me perform a job. And Bert was like, well, we got a janitor, but we'll figure it out. And I've had so many little iterations of dabbles into this and dabbles into that. But I think my overarching gift is, man, I'm a feeler. Like I am a very emotional feeler type person and not sitting here bitch mode crying all the time, but like I pick up on people's energy, and I've been in rooms with guys with $1 billion in their bank, big rings, big nice watches. And dude, the second I shook their hand, I almost pulled mine back. And this would have been a business adventure for anybody else. But I went back and I told Bert and I said, man, I don't know. I just don't know. And he's like, well, let's let it slide for a minute, and we kind of played it out. And sure enough, get something that tells us, this isn't a good idea down the line. But then there's also been people that nobody's heard of. And I'm like, I don't know why, but this dude, we got to take a look at. So I think that is a gift of mine that I've been able to extend to Sornex. Some of the relationships that we've built individually and then grown into partnerships and things like that, just from sitting and running my gums at a bar top, when I'm sitting at the airport or standing in line at Starbucks. I met John Dudley, the archer John Dudley. I met him standing behind him at a Starbucks, and then we had a great conversation. He's got a home gym. He's been to Winter Strong. So that's kind of what my job is to get in the weeds and figure out where the snakes are. You know what I mean? If I were to put a label on it.
Special place to be in, especially like you said. It's just like, obviously we all have our certain skills, but it's just those interpersonal, connection skills, like you said, getting through the weeds and just kind of, even though you're doing the behind the scenes work, so to speak, is still just very important to mesh everything together and bring all the people together. Because like you
Well,
said, you're sitting.
I consider myself, and I think everybody should, when you got something good, we all need gatekeepers.
That's
And
Mhm.
right.
not to keep people out necessarily, but to validate who we bring in.
That's a
It's like
fact.
anybody's welcome to the party, but only a few can come inside. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, we're gonna go in here, we're gonna go in my living room, but I'm gonna keep you guys outside at the party, at the pool, whatever, that kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
think we all have an obligation to something that's good. Your family, your faith, whatever, you got to gatekeep that stuff, man. And you got to draw hard lines, especially now, because everybody's trying to get where they want to be, and not everybody needs to be there, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
and
That's
Ike,
a
it's like
fact.
it's such an accessible world, right? I mean, you think
Hmm.
20 years ago, you couldn't just message somebody. You couldn't just, at somebody on social media. I mean, that there was these natural barriers, but Ike now it's anybody can talk to
Yeah.
anybody, right? And it's
Yeah.
everybody else's choice. Do you want to actually respond or not? But everybody does have that voice and everybody has a touching point now, which is fascinating.
It's
Exactly.
great though, man. I think it's a gift and a curse, right? Like, I will
Yeah.
tell you right now, I have probably my whole life, I've always I've always believed a different way, I think, than most people. Like, when my teacher asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up in kindergarten, I heard fireman, policeman, teacher, soldier. My answer was, I want to be great. Like, I didn't even know what that meant. I mean, as far as like her question, I just understood as I want to be great. And then all these times, like, I've never ever ultimately lost faith in myself to get where I want to get. Now, I've lost focus on where I was going, if that makes sense. But I've never lost faith that even if I got turned around, I'd figure it out. And I think that's one of the things in strength and conditioning. It parallels life so much that that's made my life better. Because, dude, you can look at me. I've got stories. I've got hard days, dark days, bad nights, everything in between, but strength conditioning was something that kept me going to the gym, kept me honest with myself, and kept me out of more trouble. But then in life, those same lessons, man, if you go 10 weeks this way and you look at the result and it's bad, what do you do as an athlete? You change it. But I think sometimes as men, as humans, we'll go 10 years before we turn around and say, hey, wait a minute, what's the
Hmm.
result? Because we're too busy looking at the next obstacle to think about, am I even standing at the foot of the right mountain? You know what I mean? It's like, we
That's
gotta, we
powerful.
gotta, we gotta take a step back sometimes and remember that athletic mind to guide us as the humans. Cause, dude, I'll tell you, being an athlete, I'm great. Being a human, I struggle. You know what I mean? Uh, I feel like I got some chromosome deficiencies or something somewhere because I'm not wired right. But that's the thing. It's like, if I can be good at something, then I can figure out how to make that apply elsewhere. And strength conditioning to me has been the biggest, most beautiful part of that. It's like,
At what
it's the
point was
hardest thing in the world. So if you can get good at that, you can get good at anything.
Yeah, that's a fact. At what point was strength and conditioning introduced to you in your life?
Man, I love this story because this all parallels. So, strong men, good men. I was in high school, and I had switched high schools to pursue soccer. I was a pretty good soccer player, but the school I went to was very small. 40 people in my graduating class if I had stayed. And the school across town was a big state level. I knew those guys. I could compete with those guys. My team couldn't, but I could play with those guys. And that's no disrespect. It's just the size of the pooling that you're pulling from. So Kentucky went through this legislation because of Lexington Catholic, some of the Louisville schools, about the recruitment law. You had to change a residence in the same county to transfer schools. Well, this is all going on behind the scenes when my paperwork is going through. I don't even know it's a law yet or rule yet. Four kids came from the big school to the small school for baseball. And I was actually going, yes, I was going for soccer, but the colleges that I was interested in all said, we need to see you play in a bigger market. Okay, you got the skills and the goods, but can you hold that against a bigger market? This school had a better ACT program, had a better college curriculum. I did not even have, I was going into my junior year and I didn't even have a portfolio started. So, like, when I sit down to interview at this other school, they're like, well, where's your portfolio? What have you got? And it was very clear that not only maybe athletic development, but like educational development, there was a big jump up at this other place. So I go through the whole process, boom, denied, cannot play. Lose my whole senior year eligibility, lost all those years for soccer, but all four baseball players that went to the smaller school got to play because
Wow.
it wasn't like an up step for a sport. So, but they took good and whatever. But nevertheless, that led into me getting into some trouble. My great grandfather took his life right around that same time. So, dude, I'm in a new school. I'm kind of like reeling, right? So one day we had these electronic clocks around the top of the school building, and they stuck out like a foot, and it just digital, said the time. And I was standing there, and I just put my hands up over top of it, and I just pulled it down. Well, fire alarms go off, sprinklers go off, clocks turn down. And it wasn't as
Dang.
bad as that sounds, because it was one sprinkler in a separate building from the main building. So it was like 2 seconds of damage, but it wasn't bad. But nevertheless, I get in trouble, and they're giving me the ringer. They're like, "You're just some punk coming here new, blah blah blah, you whatever." And Coach Travis Lynch, offensive line coach for football, was my history teacher, World Civ, and he was a big white guy, and he from the South. So he's like, "Lilly, man, what you doing? What you getting in trouble for?" And I sat down with him, and he said, "Man, I want to tell you one thing before we talk anymore. I love you. You're a good kid." And man, that broke me down. Like, it broke me down, because that wasn't a reoccurring thing in my life, right? Like, I was always
Right.
in trouble. I knew my parents loved me. My dad would say it like, I knew he loved me, but he was like, "Kid, like, your mom, she loves you, and we're here for you." He just could not say those things.
Yeah.
So Coach Lentz says this right off, and he said, "I want you to meet me after school at 3 o'clock." All right. So I think I'm in trouble. He said, "Meet me
Right.
in the weight room." So I get over there, and he puts me on one of those standing, I think it's a Dynabody standing chest press. It's got like 5 handles down the side, you're
Mhm.
standing up. He puts me on that. He puts like a 10-pound plate and a little band on the back of it. And he said, "You just press that as much as you can." And he starts asking me questions. And dude, he's digging in, like, what's going on? How's your home life? What's your relationship with your dad, your mom? What's your girlfriend like? What's this? And we go through all this. And he's like, "Get mad." He's like, "You don't have to be gentle with that thing. Like, get it out." And dude, I get going. I start crying. I'm sweating.
Mm.
And I
Wow.
was like, I got to one, and I get it out, and he goes, "You want to go pull clocks off the wall anymore?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "That's what this is for." He said, "All that
Mm.
hurt, all that anger," he said, "you're never going to beat that steel, but you can win that day." And man, it didn't even make sense to me that it was strength and conditioning. It could have been push-ups. It could have been whatever. But in that weight room with that man, that was a seed. And
Wow.
dude, that just kept powering, kept powering. And he helped me out. Like, it would have been a problem in today's world, because this world's so messed up. And this is a message, because I hear about the grooming. I'm very anti-pedophile, all that stuff. This man asked me, he was like, "You want to go fishing?" I was like, "Yeah." Took me to his farm, introduced me to his wife, his kids. We fished. "Come inside, let's have dinner." Like, he showed me a lot of things, not a disrespect to my dad, because my dad was working till 8 p.m. Like, this is stuff my
Right.
dad could not do. But
Right.
this man showed me love, showed me uh, courage, showed me how to like dig myself out. And that's when I correlated all those lessons from him. He was talking about, man, in the gym, this happened, and on the field, this happened. And I just, for the first time in my life, I saw a guy that wasn't like a superior athlete, but like athletics had changed his life. And he just kept pouring into me and pouring into me. And I think about that now as like, and I know he did it with other guys at my school, and there was never ever a problem. Like, it was just, that was a good guy that was looking out for people. I mean, he started a Christian elementary school. Like, he's just a good man. And that was it. That was where it started for me, because I could not match that feeling of like, man, it's not in here anymore. It's outside of
Right.
me now, because it's gone. I wasn't mad. I didn't feel bad. I don't know, but it was like a drug. I got hooked. And I
Yeah.
went from
Yeah.
like a
Well, I
160
mean,
I went from a
yeah.
165 kid to 200 pounds to getting a throwing chance in college and never thrown a shot put in my life, up to 240. And then that was it. I started powerlifting. It was over.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah. So literally from soccer player to one of the strongest humans to walk the earth. I mean,
Well,
it's a crazy
well, dude,
transition to get there.
I, it inspired me to say something at all my seminars too. And I was like, what are genetics? Like, what are genetics? Think about it. Like, whatever you know about it, my genetics were in an endurance athlete. I've done a 100,000-meter row. I've done 4 marathons at 300 pounds. I've done all these things from an endurance standpoint because I pushed myself in that direction, right? Like I expressed those genetics or gave them the ability to express because I forced them to express themselves. Go the other way where I start lifting weights, I force those muscles to express themselves, those genetics to express themselves. So it's like how now height, those kind of things you can adapt. Somewhat you can if you're eating a lot of protein when you're growing, but like we don't know what our genetic potential is. That's why I hate that word, genetic potential. I was a 5-minute miler when I was in high school. I did distance on swimming, diving, everything else. I was a rail. And then I was 350 pounds. So my genetics must be I'm going to get wherever I'm going and you're not going to stop. You know what I mean? And I think people need to break those limitations of, well, I'm small. Well, you're small now. Like, what if you got up here and started eating protein and lifting weights for 20 years? You don't know. And then if you want to be an endurance athlete, well, I run a 15-minute mile. Great. When's the last time you ran a mile? Never. Good. You can get better. You know what I mean? But Truett Haynes, Cam Haynes' son, he was like, when I started this whole mess, I was like an 8-minute mile, and now he's running like a 2:30 marathon. So it's like,
Jeez.
Man,
how do
Wow.
you know unless you die for it? Like, unless
Yeah.
you put it all on the line for it, I don't believe in genetic potential. I believe in genetic wasting. That's
Right.
what I believe in, not
Right.
potential. That's the more important equation. What genetics are you wasting rather than achieving?
Man, that's
man.
powerful. That's
Yes.
powerful.
For real.
That's good stuff, man. There's been a ton of good stuff in here. I do want to dive more into that decision for competitive lifting because you said you're throwing in school, and
Yep.
then kind of the what's next. How did you
Yeah.
approach that? How did that become a good idea to lead you, like I said, to being one of the strongest people on earth?
So I was like 18, 19, and I was already competing in powerlifting a little bit. I was like 225 pounds, but I squatted 660, bench 440, and pulled 670. And I just
At 18 years old, that's what we're doing.
19. And
You're a
well,
freak.
no, it
You're
was
a
like
freak.
it was 19, but only by a few days because my birthday was March 14th and the competition was like March 19th or 20th. But anyway, um, I did those lifts and I was very much into it. Like I wanted that 500-pound bench press and I wanted a 700-pound squat, 700 pull. And man, the throwing was just interrupting me, but it was getting me privileged to a better weight facility. So I was like, and free meals, dude. And I worked in the kitchen at school because at my school that I
Smart.
went to,
Smart.
every student had to work in a labor position. Okay. Every single student. So I worked in food service and man, B, Barb, Joanne, these ladies are strong, big bone Kentucky women that were looking out for me. They're like, if you got to throw far, you got to eat good. So Joanne and B and all them would fix my breakfast plate to eat. And then they'd send me a little breakfast plate to go. And then Barb would come around with about 15 chocolate chip cookies. So those old ladies took care of me, man. But I just didn't love throwing. Like I'd only done it a season. I was good at it, but I didn't have a passion for it. And I was getting stronger in the gym. And then I did another couple meets. And then I actually went to strongman and I was driving. So fast forward a little bit, graduate, still competing, get married, have a kid, and I'm doing strongman. But I'm working from 7 to 5. At 5 o'clock, I'm driving an hour to training for an hour and a half, and then driving an hour back. So I'm getting home at like 8 o'clock with a new baby, right? Just not working. Happened to meet a guy named Robbie Burns, and he was a pipe fitter. I mean, big as hell. And I was like, "What's going on, man?" He said, "Dude, I own a gym. You ought to come check it out." Well, it's a little strip mall gym, dungeon style, but I see these guys back there, bands, chains, safety squat bars, cambered bars. I got no idea what in the world is going on outside of like strongman implements, right? These all look crazy to me. But I started training with them and dude, Robbie, I kid you not, he didn't compete a lot. Uh, he competed 1 or 2 times, but man, he's one of the strongest human beings I ever saw. Like he did 860 good morning for 2. And like I'm not talking like, one of these deals where the guy goes like 3 or 4 inches. I'm talking like put the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I'm going to bend over, look you in the face, stand up, and bend over and look you in the face again. So like
Golly.
crazy strength like that. And in this gym, for example, this was the kind of gym where I missed a green and blue band over a cambered bar, 14-inch cambered bar with 585, missed it 3 times. Robbie get in your face. My buddy Jake Anderson that ended up going to Westside with me smacked me in the face, and I'd get under 635 and do it for 2. Like it was one of those gyms. Like there's no the program went out the window when your balls or your heart got challenged. You know what I mean? Like if Adam did that, I got to do 5 more. If Jake did that, I got to do 10 more. You know, it's always that competition. Dude, it was so good for me and so raw and real, and like I learned so much by not knowing a damn thing. Like I didn't know jack shit, so I just took it in as much as I could. And from there, I said Jake Anderson, me and him started we did a competition, the Pro Am in Cincinnati, and I'd squatted 900, I'd benched 675 or right at 700 and pulled whatever it was. I just missed 2300. I got 22 something. And I was like, or 2100 and just missed 22. And I was like, damn. Well, Louis was at the meet. Louis Simmons, he goes, you got to come up and visit sometime. And I was like, okay. Well, Jake had a good meet, and he was like, you got to come up and visit sometime, not knowing we trained together. So we used to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, leave Richmond, Kentucky, drive 3 hours, train at Westside 2 hours, eat at Subway, and drive back and go to work second shift. We did that 3 to 4 days a week until we
My
moved up
God.
there. So that's what I'm
Wow.
saying about genetic wasting. I think
Mhm.
about those mornings of like, I mean, in my mind, so to rewind a little bit, I'd gone through a separation, you know, distance with my family, distance with my kid. And I had like I felt like all my chips were down, rock bottom, you know. So it's like, where's the best place to go to pursue this thing? Well, it's 3 hours away. Well, I don't live there. I'm gonna drive 3 hours. And that's just the way my mind works. Like that's how I said I'm different. When I was a kid,
Mhm.
we had a 1 mile circle around my place, and I was like, how cool would it be to do 100 of those in a day? So I'm like 8 years old on a little BMX bike, not even a 10 speed, and did 100 laps on this thing. And like, why? Like, why? And that's how my brain has always been, is like,
Mhm.
if that's where the pot of gold is, and Louis said it best, to quote Louis and to give the man respect. Louis said, people have a real problem. If I said there's $1 million under those cones out there, you just got to go, or there might be $1 million under one of those cones out there, and there's 100. Few people go out there and flip all 100 just because it's small. I'm the
Mhm.
guy that said there might be $1 million out there, and there's 10 million cones. I'm going to flip every cone over and pick up the change. You know what I mean? If there might be a penny under one, or there might be a quarter, I don't care if there's $1 million. I'm going to keep looking till I get what I'm going to get. And then if it's not enough, I go a different direction. You know, it might not be that $1 million satisfies me, because dude, I've achieved so many things at a high level, and then I've been like, now what? Like I transitioned
Mhm.
from high level powerlifting to bow hunting, and then I went from bow hunting to hunting with a recurve. So I'm always some kind of moron inside me just keeps saying, make shit harder on yourself, make shit harder on yourself. But I look back, I got 44 years of pretty crazy stories by always pushing myself to the limit, you know?
Yeah, and I think too, man, what you're saying is, like genetic potential and genetic wasting. It's almost like that potential is not about the genetics. It's about what are you as an individual willing to do to, like you said, set your mind on something and make sure that you see it through. And I think too, a part of that is just the society that we live in and just the human nature of instant gratification is if I can't, you know, go to the gym today, start lifting, and then by tomorrow be able to bench press 500 pounds, what's the point of even trying? But I think it's that
Right.
mentality that just keeps people stagnant and sit around, woe is me, like you said, but they're not knowing the other side of people who are just built different, like you're saying. It's just you set your mind to it and it's why am I doing this? Because I thought about it and we know we can do it. If you don't do it or if you don't attempt it, you'll fail trying, but you can at least say you gave it a shot. You know what I'm saying? So
Dude,
I
I'll
think
tell
that's
you,
really like,
I'll tell you a movie scene that encapsulates it for me. I'm a big Fight Club fan. I actually, well, this is something
mhm.
we talked about before we finish, but I'm a big Fight Club fan. It's actually a love story. It's not what it appears to be at all. It's a love story. I got the tattoos of the characters on my side right here, so I've thought about this for a little while. But you know, the scene when he goes in the grocery store, the little gas station, and he takes the guy out back and he puts him down on the ground, puts a gun to the back of his head, said, "Why are you working at this place?" And he said, uh, it's, college was too hard. He said, what were you going to college for? Be a veterinarian. He said, it was too hard. He's like, do you want to die? He's like, was it harder than dying? And he was like, they go through their whole spiel and he kicks him off and he's like, I'm going to come find you in 6 weeks. And if you're not on your way to becoming a veterinarian, I'll kill you. And he looks at the Edward Norton character and he goes, tomorrow his breakfast will taste better than any meal he's ever had in his life. Because sometimes whatever that voice is in me, people need an external driver to do that. Whether it's having a baby and realizing, man, I got to stop being a piece of shit and raise this kid, or somebody puts a gun to your head and says, you know what, I'm going to kill you if you don't become better than you are. Like all of that stuff propels people forward. And I think when people get stuck, that's where the whole +1 mentality came for me. Because, dude, I was
Mhm.
stuck. April 12th, 2016, the rise of all my powerlifting world championships, top rank, blow my legs out. Oh, I go through 2 years of surgeries, up and down, up and down. And when you're the man you can't even do the thing that you were the man at, really. That's tough. So for 2 years, I circled the drain and I put a gun in my mouth, didn't want to die. But I was
Mhm.
like, that was the thing that happened to me was I was like, I don't want to die, but I don't want to live like this. That was the sentence
Mhm.
that helped me get through. Call my dad, we talked, and he said something to me that just was like a light bulb moment. He said, you're in a 1,000-foot hole. He's like, but you can climb out one step at a time. And he was like, if
Mhm.
you step back down, you're going away. And it just like, it
Mhm.
didn't make sense, but it did. And I was like, you know what? There's no zeros in life. Either you won today or you lost it. And I said,
Yeah.
break that down to a person who feels like I gotta restrain myself on every decision I make because obviously I've made some bad ones. So breakfast,
Mhm.
did I eat what I was supposed to, or did I run through McDonald's? Okay, that's not a zero; it's a plus or a minus. So stack those
Mhm.
plus ones throughout your day, and dude, it's like, what about Bob? Baby steps, dude. I had to baby step my way through decisions to get myself going in the right direction, but I was willing to do it because I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
better than this. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. So when I stopped thinking and analyzing, that's when shit went off the rails. So I had to come back.
Right.
What am I eating for breakfast? Do that. What am I eating for lunch? Do that. When am I training? Do that. So I just held myself accountable again to small things. Like you're going to eat anyway, do it right. You're going to,
Mhm.
go to bed at a certain time, pick a time that's good for you. You're going to wake up at a certain time, pick up a time that's good for you. Start insulating yourself with habits that you can recreate on a daily basis. I started journaling. I
Mhm.
started all these other things. And dude, this is one thing I want to say about this. All this stuff about the vulnerability and the journaling and stuff, that is that is not a weak position to take, but I am seeing men make it weak. If you understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying. Like I
Mhm.
can look at you and say, dude, you're messing up, and I can tell you a story about myself, proud of myself for being where I'm at. I don't have to break down in tears and feel like a piece of
Right.
shit, dude. The thing that we're doing right now is we're compartmentalizing our lives to the here and now so much. We got a whole life to get it right. Now, yeah, I want to be a good man along the way, but I'm going to tell you my story at the finish line. I hope I have mistakes in
Yeah.
between because if not, I live too
Mhm.
Right.
cautious, and I think that's
Right.
what we're doing now is we're trying to cultivate this cautious living where I only win. Well, brother, from my story and my way of thinking, if you're only winning, you're playing the Pee Wee leagues. You aren't going up against
That's right.
anybody that's challenged you or anything that's making you better. You're staying safe. So if you're in a place where you're not challenged and if you're in a place where you're not going anywhere, up the ante. Like you have to find things to challenge yourself, even if that's just setting a bedtime, you know, but don't be so victimhood about your past. Like you're allowed to fuck up. Like get forward and get
Yeah.
better. Like that
Yeah.
you can't go forward with that soft ass, weak ass mentality because this life will break you down and break you down and break you down. You got to keep standing up. So I'm seeing these guys be all vulnerable and all this stuff. Dude, you better lace your boots up and get to work. That's the only answer. It ain't gonna
That's
be
right.
hugs and tears. Those things might help you get going, but it ain't gonna be that day in and day out. You're gonna have to strap up and go, you know,
No doubt. No doubt, man.
and
That's
rant.
that's big league stuff, man. Powerful. It is. And I think everything that you're just saying there and maybe redirect this because of the 1,000-foot hole you just, talked about there and stacking those wins when you're in that, because you were in it. And
Mhm.
when you don't win, what's the mentality? How do you flip the page to tomorrow? If you have a bad day, how do you not make that 2 bad days for maybe somebody that might be struggling with stacking wins right now?
Well, man, I'll tell you, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and this is very recent. This is one of the most talented human beings I've ever met in my life. I've never seen a skill that this person pursued that they don't do it at not just a good level, a high level, like unbelievable talent. He can get other people jobs. He can get other people gigs playing music. He can help so many other people out. And he finds himself like, nobody gives me a job. Nobody gives me this. Nobody gives me this. And I said, well, you can do a few things. You can stay there, like just in that mindset that nobody's going to do it for you, or you can try some things. You can do some things. And what it was is he wanted to find one path that was going to be it. But he's so talented in multi paths, you know. And I was like, well, do a little bit of this and do a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And now it's not just this one thing. And dude, it would have been like this for powerlifting for me. And I did go all in. I blew my whole life up for it and I got there. But I can tell you my life would have been better if I'd have just been a really good lifter and kept my other stuff in line. So that's where he was. He was too far into the thing that was blowing everything else up. So bring that one back a little bit and push these other things forward. And I think people just have to look at their life from that angle of what about me, my decision making, where I'm at, what put me here, and don't blame another person.
Mhm.
If it was your girlfriend, you stayed too long if she put you there. If it was your parents, that's 10 years ago. You gotta think about the 10 years since. Whatever it is, you have to reflect on yourself as I am the only person that put me here. I'm the only person that's going to get me out. Now, that girlfriend might have helped facilitate putting you there, but like I said, you stayed too long. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Don't stay in things when you start to smell the poison. If you're walking towards a fire and you see the smoke, well, you know there's a fire. Well, if you keep walking into the fire, you're going to get burned. And that's the same thing. Let people tell you who they are, but know exactly who you are and what you want. Because if you don't, where are you going? If I said where you want to go and we just start driving, where are we going? Wherever we
Mhm.
drive. But if you know, hey man, I want to get to, Washington, DC or California, whatever, then I can give you directions. And there are directions. This will be my last rant too. This is the last best country that if you have a dream in this country, there's a stair step to wherever you want to be. If you work at McDonald's, there's programs that will get you into college, that will get you into regional management, that will get you into business ownership. If you want to be a doctor from McDonald's, there are college programs from McDonald's to get you to become a medic that can get you into medical school. That's we think of McDonald's as like the lowest form of employment, but there are programs out there for everybody, and most of it comes down to time, effort, and want to. How much time are you going to put into it? How much effort are you going to give when it gets hard? And how bad do you want it? Those three things will get shit done in this country, and
Man,
anybody
that's
can achieve their dream.
yeah,
But you got to wake up from the nightmare and know I got to figure out the steps to get where I want. That's it. And you
Yeah.
might not get all the way there, but like I said, you could be damn better for it.
absolutely. Because that's the thing. Like you said, the steps are there. You just got to wake up, and the biggest thing is just knowing which steps you want to take and where you're trying to get to. So, but yeah, man, like you said, you've kind of gave us a whole crazy story, man, and kind of where you are right now. So what's next for you kind of, in this new season of, like you were saying, you're doing your where strength resides and everything
Yep.
like that. So what do you have going forward for you from here?
So more of that. But my training right now, I pulled it summer strong this year, and like I told you, I pulled 670 at 225 or whatever when I was 19. Well, I'm about that right now. I'm like about the same body weight, give or take, right now. So I'm not going to put a number out there as like I want to do this, but I have a number in my life at around this body weight, and I pulled 550 pretty good at summer strong with literally no effort to train maximally, just more trying to train repetition. So
Yeah.
my goal is from now till next summer strong, just see what I can do with the deadlift. Like I'm getting better with the squats, like because of my injury, I avoided a lot of things. So I'd say right now I'm getting back into the barbell and loving it, like figuring out how my body moves and works with it now, enjoying the progression again. And stuff with Sorinex is going really, really great. I think we've got some amazing stuff coming down the line. We're working with so many different amazing people right now. It's kind of overwhelming how fast it's going. But then hunting's coming up. We'll do doing some stuff from Sorinex Outdoors. I'll be hunting and traveling a little bit. And then, dude, I'm ready for college football. I mean, I
Come
cannot tell
on.
you how ready I am for September because I do think, man, I think even the NBA with all their stuff, I'm rooting for every league to do well. And I know every league's
Mhm.
got their stuff. It's when the Knicks are good, when the Celtics are good, when the Lakers are hot, NBA basketball is good, right? You got the Yankees, the Red Sox, baseball's good. On and on and on. College football, we need these schools. We need Tennessee's and Florida's, the big SEC schools to be strong, the Big Ten to be strong. We just need college football to be back because if anything been said to me or seen to me, UFC 250 Freedom showed me that people are desperate to be patriots.
Come
People are
on.
desperate
That's right.
to get behind stuff and excited about American culture again. That's what it felt like to me was like, man, if we can have this kind of energy for one event, if we can get football back, if we can get, and all this is peripheral to the economy improving, but like if we can get this country rolling a little bit, I think people are desperate for it. I'm desperate to see people happy again. So
Mhm.
Right.
let's get
Right.
some
Absolutely.
college football games going. Let's get this Sorinex where strength lives rolling. Let's get this podcast out. Let's have a great freaking weekend, boys.
Come on.
Absolutely,
That's the
man. That's
best
what
way
I'm
to
talking
do it.
about.
That's the best way to do it. Hey, this was super fun, man. It was fun to hear some of your story. We've got to
Yes,
do
sir.
this again and maybe do a deeper dive. But man, it was
Anytime, man.
really fun to sit down with you. We appreciate your time, brother.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.